Hi guys, some of you asked me to create some kind of series of videos explaining the techniques I use while working with grease pencil and with Blender in general. But I figured out that before diving deeper into some of my techniques and some of my ideas, it would be sensible to create some kind of like video covering the basics of grease pencil and of Blender in general as well. So as you can see, I've got like completely default scene in here. I just downloaded the Blender 4.4 beta, and yeah, when you install Blender for the first time and you open like the new general file, you probably get something like this. There are only three options, three objects on my scene. So there is like camera, there is like cube, and there is like one point light. Mm, we don't actually see what the point light is doing right now because we are in the solid mode. But if I would go to render it, you can see that there is a light on my scene. Okay. Um, Actually, I won't delete the default cube. I think I can use it later on. So uh, I will just push it a little bit down along z-axis. So I just activated move, rotate, and scale gizmos. So when I have like the gizmo on, I can see all those handles, and I can rotate the object along specific angles and move it and scale it as well. Right now, I just want it to be a little bit lower than in the default scene. Okay. Uh, next thing I want to do, I want to, because right now my camera, when I go to camera view, it looks like this, and I want to make it a little bit simpler. So to do so, I will just uh, select the camera, hit Alt and R, so I reset the rotation of the camera, and I will hit Alt and G to reset um, mm, the position of the camera. And right now I just want to rotate it along X axis 90 degrees and push it a little bit back. So right now I've got something like this. And uh, when it comes to camera view, I really like to keep my Passepartout. You can find it in the camera setting. In viewport display, there is like this thing called Passepartout. Uh, and if you push it way up to 1, it will cover like everything outside of the camera view. And this is the way I like to work. Well, it's totally up to you, but it's good to know. Okay, so I've got my camera set up. I've got my cube a little bit lower than it used to be. And right now I would like to add brand new empty grease pencil object. Okay, so as you can see, my 3D cursor is exactly in the center of the scene. And basically, if you don't know, like in Blender, uh, you add a new object in a place where the 3D cursor is in the moment. So I'll just hit the shortcut Shift A and create a new blank grease pencil object. By creating this grease pencil object, Blender did some things automatically for me. So for example, if you look into Properties tab and specifically into this Data tab, you can see that we've got like the list of layers, and there is only one layer which was created automatically by Blender for me. Also, if you check like the Material tab, there is like one grease pencil material like black material created especially for me, but automatically. Uh, okay, so are we ready to draw? Probably yes. Mm, as you can see, Grease Pencil object has its own set of modes that you can choose from. If you would, for example, if I would choose like the cube, you can see that the types of modes are totally different. Like for example, you don't have anything like draw mode in this case, obviously. If I would pick Grease Pencil in object mode again, you can see that there are some things you can choose from. And today we will probably focus on three modes, like the draw mode, the object mode, and the edit mode. Okay, so before I go to drawing mode, I just want to fix one thing. I believe the scene is a little bit too dark for me, so I'll just go to the properties panel, and in world tab there is this color of the background, so I'll just make it a little bit brighter. Okay, the thing with this background color is that you have to think of it like it's some kind of light which shines on your scene equally. So if I would change like the saturation of it, you can see that it actually changes the how the cube looks. Like the background become reddish, but like the cube became reddish as well. So it's not just changing the color of some kind of plane in the back. It acts like the light which shines equally on the whole scene. But right now, let's just use something less saturated and maybe a little bit brighter. And let's go to our Grease Pencil object to draw mode to actually draw something. Yeah. So as you can see, I can start drawing immediately, and it's actually kind of in a 3D space. It's completely flat, but it's in the 3D space. And yeah, as you can see, you have bunch of different brushes which you can use down here. Um, the whole thing with these brushes, it's actually kind of one tool with those settings which you can find up here, like the difference are all those settings which you can find in those tabs up here. So let me show you how it works. I will just go to edit mode and select all by hitting A and delete everything. I will do it all the time. I usually get rid of unwanted strokes. I just go to edit mode, select all, and hit X to delete it. Let's go back to drawing mode. Look at this. I've got this pen tool, right? So I can draw like a stroke which doesn't have any shape dynamics, so it doesn't use tablet pen pressure, right? And here there is like a ink pen tool, and right now I can actually use my tablet pen pressure to create different like the strokes with a thickness dynamics. So the difference between those two brushes are just like this one option in here. Look at this. Like in this tool, you have that little guy here turned off, and here the tablet pressure is enabled. Uh, and yeah, so for example, again, like this marker chisel tool, I never use it, but yeah, so the difference between this and the ink pen tool is probably only that there is this angle option turn on, so you can actually on some angles it's a little bit thinner, and on some angles it's thicker. uh, my favorite brush, it's probably like from the default brushes, is this ink pen rough. So it creates a little bit of noise when it comes to radius. So it's pretty much the same as the ink pen, but there are some difference in here. For example, ink pen has post processing on, and it kind of smoothens like the stroke, um, and it simplifies it a little bit. So you get the kind of less vertices. So it's not that dense when it comes to amount of the vertices. Let me show you. Like I'm just right now I'm using the ink pen. When I go to edit mode, you can see it looks like this. When I would choose like the ink pen rough, which is set like this, that it doesn't have post processing on, so it doesn't simplify anything, it doesn't smooth anything, but it has the randomize option on, so it randomizes the radius. So let's look on those both strokes in the edit mode. So we can see this one has way less vertices, and because it was simplified, instantly simplified, and this one doesn't have this simplify option turned on, so it's much denser. Well, it's heavier for the performance of your machine, of your of your computer, but it creates more kind of organic look, I would say. Uh, Obviously, you can turn down like the radius rotation, the radius randomization a little bit, so it makes only a little bit of randomization, right? Let's talk a little bit about the materials. So the thing that determines for example, the color of your strokes. So do you remember I showed you that Blender already created brand new material for me and called it black? So as you can see, I've got two options in here: stroke and fill. And for this material, the only the stroke option is enabled. So I am able to create a black strokes with it. The cool thing about the material-oriented workflow is that you can change the color of your strokes anytime you want. So yeah, if you are not very sure about, for example, the color scheme of your artwork, it kind of helps. It surely helps me. I like to create something, draw something, and then tweak the different colors, the different materials, play around with the saturation, and play around with the hue and value, and yeah, this is kind of cool. Okay, let's try to create a new material, like different kind of material. To do so, I will just hit this plus button here, so I'm creating kind of an empty slot for a new material. And yeah, if I want to actually create a new material, I have to hit the new, and as you can see, I've got by default I've got like black stroke again. I mean, it's not called black anymore, like material 001, but yeah, I've got only the stroke option enabled. I want to make it like opposite. I want to have only the fill enabled. By the way, the default material, it can be confusing for the at the beginning. Like if you would like to turn on the fill in here, uh, as you can see, like the alpha of the material is set to 0. So even if you would turn it on, it still only produces the stroke. Yeah, could be confusing. Yeah, but we created like the brand new material which is only fill. So as you can see, like there is no actually there is no stroke, so there is no radius randomization. This is just very sharp edge of this fill material. Obviously we can change like the color of it, like saturation, value, hue, whatever you want. Yeah, let's actually create a new slot and a new material, and right now we will use both stroke and fill. Let's change the color a little bit. So right now I can draw shapes which have like kind of outline with this whole randomization, because I use like this ink pen rough brush, and I have a fill which I can tweak around, and of course I can play around with the outline as well. Generally speaking, like the materials are quite interesting and complicated stuff, and I think I will make a video which would focus only on different kind of materials where you can like um, mm, do really crazy things with them. But today I would like to focus only on the very basic stuff. So there is one more thing I would like to show you. Look at this. I will create a new material, make it only fill, but I will enable this option here, like the holdout option. So right now it acts like you would cut some pieces of this existing artwork. It doesn't erase them. It just makes this part of the image transparent. So you can kind of cut holes in your shapes. Mm, you can easily create a material which uses both fill and stroke, and both stroke and fill have holdout option on. So right now it's not perfectly visible, but yeah, there is like this a little bit of randomization of the stroke. And of course you can play around, for example, create a material which has holdout for fill but has like normal stroke without holdout options. So you can actually cut things, cut the holes in your shapes, which actually have outline, which is kind of cool. Let's talk about some other tools which are available for grease pencil. So we got the brushes, right? And pretty basic stuff like eraser. Uh, there is one thing that is worth mentioning, because it generally works as you would imagine eraser would work. So you got actually three options in here. So it can be erasing like hard, like it's in default. You can erase soft, so it creates like it acts like a soft eraser, whatever. um, you can make it even smoother, I guess. um, and finally the eraser point. So you are actually erasing the vertices. uh, what's the important thing? Look, if I would go to edit mode, it would appear that when I use when I use the soft eraser and hard eraser, it doesn't actually erases the vertices. I mean the stroke. It just makes the texture, the material disappear in a way. The only eraser which actually acts like this, it actually erases the vertices, is the point eraser, and it could get extremely important when you are working, for example, with geometry nodes. But I guess we'll get there sometime in the future. Okay, let's talk about the fill tool, which was very confusing for me. Uh, so let's start with drawing some kind of rectangular shape with stroke material, and let's try to use a fill tool. I click once, nothing happens. I click twice, nothing actually happens. 1, 2, nothing is happening. The problem is that I still use like the stroke material instead of using fill material. And if I would go to edit mode, you can see that instead of having just one stroke, I created a bunch of new additional strokes. So if I am in edit mode, in stroke selection mode, I can easily select it, and while holding shift I can select the other one and just delete it. So right now I've got my single stroke, right? So I want to go back to drawing mode, pick the fill tool, and right now I will just want to use like the fill material. Yeah, I click once, nothing happens. I click twice, I get the nice fill. Yeah. What's the point with this double click? I mean, that was really confusing for me, because I was just like using the tool and it didn't work, and well, some weird things start to happen sometimes. Okay, look, if I click once, we are kind of getting into middle of some kind of a process. Look down here. There is like bunch of information for us. Like if you will hit escape, you will cancel the process. If you will use like left mouse button or use your tablet, you will actually fill the shape. Then you've got some more options, but it says that we are in some kind like in some kind of a middle of a process. So let's hit escape, and to show it better, I will create a new shape. It would be kind of rectangular as well, but I will just leave a small gap in here. So probably if I would like to fill it right now, it wouldn't work. So I'm clicking twice, nothing happens actually. Why is that? I mean, obviously because of this gap. And what it has to do with this double click. Look, if I will click once, those little things are starting to appeared in here, right? And right now, by using your mouse wheel, I can make the some kind of fake edit lines which will try to close the gap. Yeah, and by hitting S, as you can see, there is like suggestion that you can change the mode of extension. You can change it to actually radius, so it creates like some kind of circles that will close the gap. If you will, there is yeah, so basically you're in the middle of the process, and right now you have to confirm it, and the gap is filled. And it was really confusing for me when it comes to fill tool, because I barely use a mouse. So without having this uh, option of making those edit lines, like fake edit lines, grow, uh, you can see that there is like the size have changed in here. Uh, by the way, every tool, if you want some well settings of a tool, you can always call a sidebar, which is always there for you. Like you just have to hit like the N button, and yeah, or you can use like this menu here and turn on or turn off the sidebar. So the all tool settings would be in the second tab from the top. And as you can see, like there's a whole bunch of settings where you can actually play around with the fill tool. For example, if I would create whole lot of shapes, like different shapes, and I wouldn't like to fill them one by one, I can take my fill material and the fill tool and change the mode from normal to inverted. And if I would click twice, you can see uh, mm, those lines appear, like the edit lines appear. But if I click anywhere outside of those shapes, I will instantly fill them with with the fill tool. And as you can see, it kind of sucks, so I have to tweak it a little bit. Probably I would need to make it way smaller because they look kind of closed. Yeah, the problem is that, for example, right now the fill is on top of everything, right? So if I would like to change it, mm, I would have to kind of use some special thing in here. If you are in a draw mode, you get some icons in here, and the first one we will discuss today is the draw strokes on back. So if you will hit it, you can actually see that the fill is being placed behind the stroke, right? So one more tool I would like to discuss today. When it comes to fill, you can play around with with all those settings. They are pretty intuitive, I guess, like the precision, delay, and thickness. Um, well, maybe one more thing is quite important to discuss. Like, for example, uh, those layers. What does it means? Like when it comes to fill tool, and we've got some kind of like layers information. So if you got like multiple layers on your in your grease pencil object, right? And for example, you've got on the maybe let's just delete everything, and yeah, let's create something like this on one layer. Let's go to the other layer and close it actually. So let's try to fill it now. Fill material, fill tool, layers visible. Well, easy peasy. uh, well, I've got a couple of options in here. So for example, if I would change it to active, I wouldn't be able to fill it because I am filling only the active layer, which has only this stroke. I am not able to fill this layer as well. Well, well, sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. Another option, which might be helpful sometimes. Let's say I would create like some kind of artwork in here. I don't know, like some kind of line art, right? So I'll just draw a, I don't know, a face or something like that. And yeah, it's on the top layer, right? And I want to have my fills on the layer beneath. Uh, Sometimes it's useful. So I can choose my material and choose my tool and change it from active to layer above. So it kind of uses the information from the layer above to create the boundaries for it. Um, but actually the fill is on a different layer. So might be helpful sometimes. Okay. So I encourage you to play around with fill tool. Not my favorite part of grease pencil, but I guess it's pretty useful. Um, so really fast, I just want to talk about trim tool and eyedropper, and we'll leave the interpolate for some time else, because it's, well, you'll see, it's fun. Okay, so let's go to trim really fast. Let's choose my stroke material, and let's say I created something like this. So with my trim tool, I can easily cut uh, the um, the parts that I don't want to exist. Basically, every time every time the strokes crosses another stroke, you can easily cut off like the parts you don't want to appear in your artwork. So pretty simple, I guess. Okay, one more tool to discuss. Pretty simple as well. So it's eyedropper tool, and it's um, actually very nice thing to create new materials based on some color information from your scene. For example, if I would like to create a material which has exactly the same color as here, I will just use this eyedropper tool, and the material is being created for me, like the stroke material with the color of this grayish color. If I want to create a material which has only fill, I can do it as well, or I can have both, and that's all. Okay, let's move forward. I just deleted everything, created whole new layer, empty layer, and created three materials. One is only black stroke, one is like black stroke with some bluish fill, and one is like black stroke with some grayish fill. Okay. Remember when I created this grease pencil object, this little orange dot appeared. This is actually a pretty important thing. Mm, this is the origin point of our object, and it's always good to know where your origin points are. It doesn't matter if it's a grease pencil object or meshes or I don't know, paths, whatever. Like it's good to know where the origin point is. Uh, our origin point, my origin point, is right in the middle of the scene. So location is 0, rotation is 0, scale is 0. There is no dimension since there is no artwork inside. If I would start to create uh, some artwork, obviously like some dimensions would start to appear. Notice that I'm not in the camera view. I'm just in the 3D viewport, and it can be a little bit confusing from time to time. So to make it a little less confusing, I would like to show you the canvas. So here we've got this whole overlays thing. Like the overlays are those all those useful stuff which help us to like to feel better in the 3D space. So as you can see, I can turn off and turn on the floor or the y and x axis. I can turn on the z as well, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Um, Apart from that, there is like special overlays which are dedicated to particular types of objects. For example, if I would go uh, to my cube, to the edit mode, you can see that the overlays for the meshes for the cube object is kind of different. Like the special part of overlays is different than it would be for grease pencil. So I want to turn on the canvas, and yeah, it kind of, you can kind of see it, but you can barely see it probably. So um, let's just use some a little bit more saturated color to see it more precisely. Um, okay, so as you can see, my canvas is kind of following my position in viewport. So if I would like to start to draw some strokes right now, I can easily do that, and I'm actually creating like those strokes in the 3D space, right? Um, the thing is that it might be a little bit confusing. So what's the deal here? How do we approach like drawing in 3D space? Let's start from something simple. Let's delete everything and look here. Like right now I'm in the drawing mode, right? And I've got some options here. So first drop down menu is like the stroke placement, and by default it's usually, I mean, it's always by default set to the stroke placement to origin. So it means that this canvas, this virtual piece of paper that I am actually drawing on, is kind of attached to the origin point, is related to the origin point. And by default, I think, because I haven't touched it yet, by default the drawing plane is set to view. So actually it follows your, if it follows your camera. If you would, for example, if I would go to camera view and make the camera to view option, it still follows the camera, so it moves along with the view, right? It could be a little bit confusing sometimes. So instead of like using like the view as a drawing plane, let's use front as a drawing plane. So as you can see now, no matter how much I hover around in 3D viewport, the canvas, this virtual piece of paper, stays in place. So let's actually draw something. Like, for example, I will draw a school. Notice how I'm not using like the fill tool, but I'm using like just a normal drawing tool, and I'm drawing with the material which has both stroke and fill. So it's kind of like, it's kind of my thing, and I like it to work this way. Sometimes it's way more faster than using like creating only the line art at the beginning and then trying to fill it. This way, especially when you work with simple shapes like this, it's easier to just draw the fill instantly. So yeah, I got my school. And as you can see, no matter the angle of my 3D viewport, the the canvas stays in place. So if I will just add some details here and there, it stays kind of in place. Okay, so let's try to something else. Like instead of drawing on front plane, let's use the, for example, side plane, and you immediately can see the result. Like our canvas is flipped like 90 degrees, and right now you can see exactly where you will put your strokes. So let's just create some kind of, I don't know, flame in here. And of course, like you can it's not like I was just referring to this canvas as a virtual piece of paper. It's just, something that it should help you to, I don't know, to get a better understanding on, mm, how how the strokes are being placed in the 3D space. I mean, you can obviously go outside of this rectangle, and you can kind of scale it up, mm, however you want it, and you can actually create some more subdivisions. Yeah, let's go back to the basic setting like this. Okay, so notice how I created a second stroke like this flame, which should be behind this skull, but it's not. It's kind of covering it. When I'm hovering around with my camera, kind of it sits on top of everything. Look at this. We've got only one layer in here. Both those shapes are created on the same layer. So what's the point? Like, what determines like the order of appearing on your screen? Why this is on top and this is on the bottom? Well, every time you create a new stroke, it kind of it goes to the front, like it goes to the front of your artwork, but it's quite easy to manipulate it. Look at this. If I will go to edit mode, right now I am in a point selection, so I will just change it to stroke selection, and as you can see, I can easily select this flame. And think about it. I don't know if you ever worked in software like, I don't know, Inkscape or Illustrator. Uh, every stroke you made has its own place in the stack. So I created this like skull, this shape of the head at the very beginning. So it's probably on the very bottom of everything. Um, and I created this one as the last, so it's on top of everything. Well, I would like to push it way back to the bottom of this composition, right? So what can I do? I mean, I can easily, if I right click, I will get the context menu, and I can, for example, use the arrange and send it to back. So right now it looks way better. I mean, it's where it should be, right? I mean, it's behind the skull. The thing is that, for example, if we would like to have a nice camera rotation over here, obviously there will be some errors while looking at this skull from the back. So yeah, if you don't plan to hover around with the camera, it works just fine. If you want some more complicated camera movements, it would probably would need something else. But what we got here is like the idea of how the strokes are being placed next to each other, and what's the order around here. And it's easy, like it's really easy to manipulate them. For example, if I would, like, for some reason, let's move this eye a little bit to the here. If for some reason I would like those strokes to be on the back of this skull, I mean, so it's covered with this skull, I could do like exactly the same thing that I did a minute ago, so arrange it and send it to back. Oh, there is a very cool shortcut for it, and if you hold Control and down arrow and you hold it like every time you click the down arrow while holding Control and having like those particular strokes selected, you can move them down, 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 way to the bottom. So yeah, this is the this is the way how the strokes are being stacked within the one layer, which are which we have. We have only one layer on this in this particular object, right? Okay, let's get back to our drawing planes. Of course, you can also use top plane. Notice how it's the center of this plane is always like origin because we said so. Um, yeah, let's draw something here and here and here, whatever. Okay. The last way to determine the drawing plane is the 3D cursor, and mm, it could be also confusing at the beginning because look, when you open the sidebar and go to view, you've got this settings for the 3D cursor, and no matter how you change like the position, the location of the cursor, it doesn't affect the drawing plane. Actually, it stays pretty much the same. What is important in here when you have like the drawing plane, 3D cursor for the drawing plane, is the rotation. So look, when I'm changing the rotation of the 3D cursor, I'm also changing the drawing plane tilt or the rotation. Yeah, and it's something quite useful. Sometimes it's quite useful, but yeah, let's move forward. By the way, if you start to change the angle and you will hold Control, it will jump every 10th. You know, so it's easier. You see what I mean? Or you can also reset all to default values. Okay, so let's go back to the front drawing plane, and so far we've been using like the origin for the stroke placement. Let's actually send the cursor to world origin so it's in the same place as the origin point of my object, right? So right now I want to change it to 3D cursor. Obviously nothing happened, but right now I can manipulate with the location. So I'm holding shift to make the changes um, a little bit slower. So I can change the position, like the drawing plane, by changing the position of the 3D cursor. And yeah, so right now, well, that was inappropriate. If I will draw a rectangle in front of this of this guy here, it would be like not it wouldn't be like attached to the origin point, but the drawing plane is like determined by the 3D cursor. And of course you can use side and top, and if you will use cursor, so we have like stroke placement 3D cursor and drawing plane 3D cursor as well. So we can right now you can use both location and rotation to add new strokes. So it's kind of cool. Okay. Okay, let's go back to front, let's go back to origin. um, the next mode for stroke placement is the surface, and from it used to be kind of glitchy, but after this whole rewriting of the Grease Pencil and Grease Pencil 3.0 appearance, it works like a charm. So look at this. When I changed the drawing, like stroke placement method from origin to surface, my canvas just disappeared. To not probably not to confuse anyone, uh, because right now my canvas is like all the 3D shapes in my scene, and that's partly why I left this poor cube on my scene. Finally, we can make some use of it. So right now, if I will start drawing like some kind of shapes, they will be projected right into the surface of this cube, and it works quite well, I must say. I mean, it looks good. You can see that the grease pencil strokes are being masked by the 3D shape. So if something is on this side, it's not visible from this side. That's cool. So imagine you can create a really nice line art for 3D shapes, like just by using the surface painting mode. I don't know if it's like for some cross hatching or for some ornaments, whatever. Like the probably the mm, possibilities are endless. Notice how we still work only on one layer. So in fact, the thing which determines what's on top and what's on the bottom, it's only like this the order of those strokes. So for example, if I would just push it a little bit upwards in here, it's in front. But if I would, like, for example, arrange it and send it to back, we would create something pretty weird, right? Okay. One more thing to discuss when it comes to stroke placement methods. It's stroke. It's actually stroke placement method, and it's pretty cool. Maybe let's start with a 3D cursor. Let's move a 3D cursor somewhere here. I've got my drawing plane set to front, and I will draw some kind of I don't know, some kind of a flat line, right? And right now, if I will change to the stroke as a stroke placement method, notice how the canvas disappeared once again, just like in the surface painting mode. But right now, I can attach the new strokes to the already existing strokes. See what I mean? So, and while I'm hovering around in 3D viewport, I can change the angle and create some pretty complicated stuff, I guess. Every time I draw a new stroke, it's completely flat. Remember that, because it's being like kind of projected towards the 3D view. But yeah, it's kind of cool. And there are some settings we can tweak around in here. By default, it's set to all points. But let's say, for example, I want to, I don't know, like attach this branch in here with this one. So if I would do something like this, well, it's not the best. Uh, Probably it's not the best. Maybe let's do once again to make it worse. Yeah, see what I mean? I want to have a straight line between this and this. And what's happened here, every time while drawing the stroke, when I am meeting some kind of a stroke in between, it kind of tries to figure out what was the artist's idea. Well, to make it happen, like make your life a little bit easier, like the developers figured out that it would be cool to have the stroke placement target as endpoints. And look, like right now, it works like a charm. And actually, it's pretty nice to like pretty nice tool to uh, have all kinds of grids. If you are like, I don't know, I'm not sure what's the what would be, if it would be useful for anything other than some really abstract stuff, but it sure is fun to do. So check it out. Like, yeah. So one more thing, it's like the first point. Um, so it's kind of self-explanatory. So like the grease pencil only takes first stroke as a stroke placement method, and the actual rotation, it's always oriented towards the view. So for example, if I would like to create a bunch of create a bunch of different strokes down here, like to create some lump of grass or whatever, and I wouldn't like to pay attention that I'm like, I don't know, doing something wrong in here, and so it's being attached to this particular grass. I can use first point as a target. Okay, so far I've been using just the one single layer to create all this artwork, right? And yeah, let's actually create a new layer. And by default, the layer stack order determines whether something is on top or something is in the bottom. And it doesn't matter actually what's the actual position in the 3D space of particular object. Let me show you what I mean. Like right now, I will go back to origin as my stroke placement, and I will keep the drawing plane as a front. And I just created a new layer which is on top of the layer which my whole artwork is so far. So I'll just lock the layer with school. Maybe I'll just should rename it properly. Okay, so I've got a new layer in here. I will just lock my layer with my skull and, well, draw some kind of a simple shape on top of it. Maybe a simple star like this. Okay, great. So right now we actually have two containers for strokes. Like the first container is like this skull layer, and it has its own order of strokes, like from the bottom to the top, just like I explained it before. But right now we created a new layer, and it completely overrides this order in here. It's the new container which is on top of the other layer, so it would be always on top. So even if, for example, if I would, for example, go to edit mode and select this star and push it way back, right, in the 3D space, well, it should be like the skull should be covering the star, right? But look at this. In Grease Pencil, the layer stack order determines how the stuff is being shown, like, and the order of the strokes. I mean, you can actually make it more like change the stroke depth order. As you can see here, there's like in settings tab, stroke depth order is set to 2D layers, and if you would change it to 3D location, it would use actual 3D location of the of the particular strokes, but unfortunately it's very glitchy. And because like in most of the 3D software, things don't like to be perfectly aligned with each other. So you can see that those eyes in here, there is like some weird things happening, some weird glitches with one material overlapping another. And if it would be the only problem, I wouldn't care so much, because maybe I could just, I don't know, like move it a little bit forward and it would be okay. But the problem occurs also with the same stroke. This is, remember, it used to be like, it is like the same one long stroke, and you can see there are a lot of glitches in here, like so the outline is sometimes on top, sometimes on bottom. Well, couldn't tell what's how it works for sure, but trust me on that. Like stroke depth order, when it's set to 3D location, it's hard to maintain. I mean, it's hard to create anything that doesn't have like serious glitches. Mm, it works better when you are working with only fill materials. Then the problem is not so obvious. But you know, I like the outlines. I like the line art. So um, yeah. So remember, like when we are in the normal mode, so the stroke depth order is set to 3D layers. No matter where you put your shape in the 3D space, the layer stack order determines what's on top and what's on bottom. So let's actually delete this star, like the whole layer, and uh, let's do some things with layers if we are here already. Okay, for example, if I would like to animate the eyes of this guy here in the future, and I would like to probably have to have it separated into different layer, so I wouldn't have to redraw the whole skull and the mouth every time I want to animate the eyes. So I can go to edit mode, just pick all the details which are more or less eyes, and by hitting the M shortcut, I can move it to new particular layer. And right now I have only one layer, so I have an option to create a new one. I have an option to rename it. Let's call it eyes and create. So right now I have my eyes separated on the separate layer. I can do exactly the same thing with mouth. Uh, like the best way to select things in Grease Pencil objects for me is, I know it's probably totally up to you, but I love to use lasso tool, because look, I will just select everything, and if I want to get rid of this stroke, like this whole skull, I will just hold Control and select it. So right now I've got only this mouth part selected, right? And I will do exactly the same thing. I will hit M, new layer, mouth, and yeah, we are good. Okay, so I already said that if we have only one layer, then the order in which like our strokes is showing up to us from the viewport is determined by like more or less like you would expect it to be in Illustrator, so you can move particular strokes up and down. Then the next level is like are the layers. So this the layer order overrides like everything. So if the, for example, if I would actually create a new layer, call it flame. It goes automatically up. So as you can see, it's always up. I don't want that. I want to push it. Well, sorry, not mouth, but the flame, and mouth goes back up. So it's like right now the layer stack order determines how what's in front and what's beneath, right? Okay, cool. But what if we would like to have a like full uh, 360-degree rotation of the camera? Obviously, we should be looking at this skull from the back right here. So this one should be on top, not at the bottom, right? Well, to get this result, I would suggest you the workflow that I like the most. So, I mean, the way I do it normally is to keep the all the flat things like which are like 100% flat. For example, drawn only from the origin as a stroke placement and the front as a drawing plane in one object. And every time you need to move something in 3D space, you kind of create new grease pencil object for it. Because look at this. Let's maybe hide this flame for a while, and let's duplicate this skull by hitting Shift D, and let's move it a little bit forward. Right now we have like two grease pencil objects which are like next to each other, and they are Blender treats them as a normal like casual 3D objects. So everything is perfectly fine, right? Like if I do a rotation, this skull is hiding this one. So I can make, for example, a dirty trick in here. Let's delete both eyes, mouth, and the flame, creating kind of a back of the skull, and I will just push it a little bit to the back. Notice how like generally objects hate to be overlapping each other in Blender, and it comes both to meshes and grease pencils. So I'll just push it a little bit backwards, uh, and I should be perfectly fine. So right now I've got this skull which I can rotate all over. Of course it's flat as pancake, but yeah, you get the point. So if I would like to get this flame right, I would probably would just separate it by, I don't know, like I will just copy this um, skull object. In the first one I will just delete the flame, and here I will delete everything but the flame. And I can go to edit mode, pick one. This time I'm not in stroke select mode, but I'm in vertex select mode. Or it's called point, not vertex. Okay, the point select mode. and I will send the cursor to selected. So by hitting Shift and S, cursor to selected. Okay, and I want to actually set the origin point to 3D cursor. Okay, so I can now move it like this. And yeah, my skull is kind of acting uh, as a actual 3D object, which is actually a bunch of three grease pencil objects stuck together. And it's, well, you might say that you are creating a lot of grease pencil objects, but actually they are pretty easy to access. I mean, the cool thing is that you can actually access them directly from viewport by just selecting them. So they act great as a containers for the strokes for the artwork. And if the things are getting too complicated, you can always create a like new collection or something and put them all into this collection, and yeah, you're fine. One more thing I would like to mention. Look at this. For example, I want to have like some artwork made with surface painting on the sides of this cube, uh, but I want to actually have the same set of materials. Mm, so instead of like creating empty object, empty grease pencil object and importing like the proper materials to it, I will just shift D for duplicate. Yeah, and I will just delete all the layers and create a new blank one. So right now I've got like the empty grease pencil object with the same set of materials, right? So I can easily start to draw some shapes on this with a surface painting mode. If I would like to, for example, at some point change the color of this material, obviously, if I would start to change it, like since we are using the same material both for skull, for the flame, and for those ornaments here, um, it will change everything. And sometimes it's very cool. Sometimes it's very cool if you are like creating artwork with some limited color scheme. It's great to check like different relations between color if you use the same material in your whole scene. But if you want to have this in like exactly the same material but have a slightly different hue, it's a really cool thing to just use this icon here. So it creates a new material based on this one. See, it used to be material 13, right now it's material 15. So if I will change like mm, the color of the material, the color of the flame and the skull uh, is the same as it used to be. Okay, guys, so I guess this is all for today. It came up pretty long, but there was quite a lot of things that needed to be addressed, and I'm even not sure if I really actually covered up all the basics, because there is so much more things to say. Uh, for example, like the material-oriented type of workflow, it's not the only option in Blender. If you want more, I don't know, traditional way, it's you can easily use like color palettes instead of working with materials. But I guess I will make a special video about materials, and then we'll discuss the topic more precisely. Okay, and so the next one will probably be about hand-drawn animation, and yeah, I hope it will be much shorter since I won't be discussing like the whole idea of frame by frame 2D animation, just the way you can achieve it in Grease Pencil. So see you next time, guys. Hope you will get something interesting and something useful for your own project. Bye.